Alaska, and I'm from Dillingham, Alaska, and from the class of 2007. I was a major in Native American Studies with a minor in moral philosophy. Currently, I work in Washington, D.C. for Congressman Don Young of Alaska, and he is currently the chairman for the subcommittee of Alaska Native and Indian Affairs, which is exciting because I'm his legislative assistant who works on those particular issues. I've received the Lewin Postgraduate Fellowship in the year 2007, and my project was focused on language retention, and I used the fellowship to go to Greenland, which is fascinating for me, and it was a wonderful experience, and it really shaped where I am today and working in policy. I was most interested in Greenland because the Inuit culture over there has been able to maintain their traditional Inuit language, Klaatituut, which I thought was fascinating since so many indigenous languages within the United States and the Americas in general are dying out. So what was most interesting there was that they've found a way to implement this traditional language into their everyday life. So they've got publishing houses, recording studios, news stations. Their newspaper is printed in Klaatituut and Danish, and there's a huge sense of pride for maintaining their language, which is really neat and something that you don't really see in other indigenous communities. So like they don't think of them as indigenous, they see themselves as like Inuit Europeans. It's just a whole different mindset coming from a really small like village in Alaska where you don't necessarily have that sense of identity and pride. I mean, growing up in a predominantly Native community, I never learned to speak my traditional language, which is Yupik, and my dad was of the generation of we need to colonize or we need to assimilate, and you need to learn English and speak English, and there's no need to speak Yupik. And so coming to Dartmouth and being part of the Native Americans at Dartmouth, it was something like I came to realize was really important. It's something that I lacked, and I was just very interested in finding out how other societies are able to carve out a space for traditional languages. My 6 months in Greenland, I went back to Alaska, and initially I wanted to do like a language camp, but 6 months isn't enough to really master a language given no background in it. And so I presented my findings at the Bilingual Educational Equity Conference in Alaska for a bunch of bilingual teachers, and I think they thoroughly enjoyed seeing a different perspective, because in Greenland they have, like, their publishing house produces curriculum in Klaatituut, which is like unheard of. And so I think it was inspiring to share that experience. I also was able to maintain a bi-monthly newspaper article for Alaska newspapers, which is distributed throughout our state. And a lot of people reached out to me out of curiosity. Like just recently, a college girl from the University of Alaska Fairbanks randomly got my email address and emailed me and was like, "Hey, I'm really fascinated by Greenland. Like, how did you get there? What did you do? And can you help me somehow?" And of course I want to help her, and I couldn't have done it without the Lewin Foundation, which is really wonderful. I'm so grateful. So it's had a big impact on me and touched, I guess my story's gotten out there and has encouraged other people to pursue that mindset when it comes to Greenland. Seeing how well they're doing really reshaped my mindset of what Native Alaskans and Native Americans in general can be doing for themselves. Given the federal trust relationship, it's kind of a touchy issue where the federal government has an obligation to provide for tribes health care and education and other basic necessities. But in Greenland, while it's a socialist country, so they get a lot of benefits from Denmark, they still have they take initiative to do things for themselves. And so they're able to create smaller economies for themselves. But I originally went to DC wanting to work in policy for Alaskan or Native issues, and thinking that maybe I could help shape policy that would encourage more language retention or revitalization programs. But the longer I've been in DC, I've been there for about 3 years now, it's very clear that our federal government doesn't have the resources to give a lot of money, and there's so many opportunities for tribes to be doing more to generate revenue for themselves. There's a lot of economic development that can happen on tribal land, and So at this point, I just applied to business schools this last fall, and I should know next month if I got into any of them. And I just think seeing what's done in Greenland has really, and working in DC, has made it clear that the best thing that Native people can be doing for themselves is generating revenue on tribal land and then creating programs for revitalization, for language revitalization. And so my hope is to get an MBA and return either to Alaska or to some other tribe nearby, because right now I'm living in DC, and depending on where to grad school, that there's so many things in flux. I guess to help a tribe create some kind of sustainable economy, either through tribal, or not tribal, but through ecotourism, which is popular. There's a lot of things that tribes can share. There's a really great tribe out in New Mexico, I think, the Jicarilla Apache, and they own a huge lodge on this huge land reserve, and they have elk on it, and they take on these big game hunters who come and go hunting, and I think it's like $5,000 a head, and then they have to have a local Apache guide to help them, and it's like a couple $100s an hour. And so the hunter gets the trophy head, and then the rest of the elk is distributed to tribal members for consumption. So it's like this really neat business scheme that they're doing for themselves, and then they're able to turn the money towards scholarships or health services or whatever. But I just think tribal people, not tribal people, but like we're perfectly capable of doing more for ourselves, which is what I want to see.